My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the Live Safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
What makes Anbi-on-Pinde Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your live safari. The wind is howling here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. The skies look like they're holding potential rain, and the impala over there are extremely nervous, as one would be. The wind is blocking their ears. They don't know what to think. So they're huddled together on this, it's actually very cold as well, on this cold morning, looking for predators. So everyone, welcome. It's that time of day for your live safari through the African bush. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. A storm hit last night and, well, the weather just has not cleared. The wind's been howling all night. And sometimes it's worth just paying attention to the prey, like impala here, because they're huddled together. And of course, you do not know where there may be a predator lurking nearby. They are nervous. I'm nervous. I think it's going to be a cold one today, but at least that means things will be moving. My name is Lauren, and I do have Simon on camera today, and we're heading straight to the hyena den, but we just wanted to stop and look at these impala on Philemon's Dip. Our plan is to spend some time at the den if it's active. If it's not, then we'll head back to Chitwa and see if we can relocate Tandy. We had her yesterday. She was hungry. She got caught in the rain as well as us. It wasn't that fun. I don't think Tandy thought it was that fun. But of course, this is your live safari, so please do talk to us. Send in your comments, questions, anything you want to know about any of the locations that we're coming from live for you today. So you use the hashtag Wild Earth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat, or head over to wildearth.tv/explorers. And kids, if you are watching, please send in your questions. They're normally the best. And you email us, kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, the temperature is said to be 19 degrees Celsius and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. That's quite a drop from what we've been having the past few days. The heat has broken and, wow, the weather has changed quite dramatically. Now, if Tandy was really hungry last night, there's a chance she could have been successful, and there's a chance both her and Cub could be on a kill in the south. That's only if she was successful, of course, but it could have been a long night. She could have waited for the cover of darkness and then launched an attack on any of the impala or any other species of prey around Chitwa Dam. So we're going to bumble on to the hyena den. I want to see some spots, but we're now going to send you across to Mike, who already has some.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Anbjorn Punda Private Game Reserve. We have come straight back to that spot where we left those 5 young cheetah yesterday, and we've struck gold there on the opposite side of the road, all huddled together next to a little bush on the side that would be protected by the wind. You can see, you might be able to see the wind or some of the grass blowing in their direction, almost from us towards them. But have a look at that little face, like a very comfortable cat, that the one closest to us, with his front legs straight out and his head in between, trying to keep warm. And you can just see ears and eyes, well, not so much eyes, but ears there, all huddled up close to one another, just trying to keep warm. It was a particularly chilly evening last night, and the 5 of them just trying to muster up the strength this morning, I think, to get going. Being 5 of them, they obviously have to eat quite regularly, but we'll stick around. My name is Matt, and this morning behind the camera we've got Owen. And yeah, nice to see the 5 of them made it through the night. I know that on the way here we saw tracks of hyena around the area. There was a pride of lions yesterday that was also, I'd say, in the close vicinity, but they have made it through the night, which is really encouraging signs. I think if they can do that, they've got a really good chance of making it through to adulthood, the 5 of them. It's amazing just looking back at the impala. They also haven't really moved. Andrea, you saying spots are a nice way to start the drive? Absolutely. Especially with the 5 of these little youngsters who we get to watch like we do. They, I think 2 days ago now, managed to catch a young nyala, and I mean they're not even a year old, so to see them successfully do that on their own is also magic. There are 2 wildebeest in the same vicinity as well who have their heads down, and maybe not a bad thing for these cheetah to have around as they rest. You can see fast asleep, and if perhaps our pride of lions did come into this vicinity on a cooler morning, if they didn't have a successful evening hunting, those wildebeest will alarm at them, and obviously the cheetah will be alerted to that. But they're having so many sets of eyes to look out for predators, they've got a good chance of seeing it coming. But Andrea, an absolute treat of a way to start the day with these spots. Super special to see. And perhaps they probably had a bit of a restless night because it was so windy, and just making sure that the coast was clear throughout the night, taking turns to catch up on a little bit of sleep, with some standing guard keeping an eye out. There's some relatively ominous looking clouds looming above us, but it looks like the weather should hold up for now. hope we were promised rain yesterday, but we really didn't have much, or enough to make us seek shelter halfway through the drive, but nothing serious. I'm just looking at that little one, still fast asleep, eyes all resting. They're almost lined up like sardines now, huddled up together in a row. And on a cool morning like this morning, you don't see any of those ears twitching there, none of those biting flies, which must be a relief for them. I might carry on. I might see there were elephants in the vicinity yesterday, so I might see if I can't find them, leave the 5 of these cheetah in peace. But for now, we're going to head across to Carl, who's managed to find a journey of giraffe.
I could not think of a better way to spend a morning. Out in the bushes and with you folks, it couldn't get better. We're enjoying these lovely giraffe on this beautiful overcast day. Good morning, my name is Kyle, and behind camera, Craig. I thought you were going to give us a thumbs up there. Good morning, thank you and welcome. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful day. We have got a nice bit of cloud cover. There's a bit of rain predicted for this early morning. Hopefully we can squeeze in between it. But a nice group of sub-adult giraffe. A few of them have crossed the road already. They have shot a bit further west. And this older bull just bringing up the rear. We are continuing slowly down this big main highway of ours, and we are heading to Chukuru Dam. Let's do a little scratch around there. I want to see if we've got any cheetah tracks. I hear that you folks have seen the brand new little lapwing chicks. It makes my heart explode with joy. These giraffe just doing what they need to do. There's a bit of an older bull at the back there. And if you look at these groupings, you'd find that the age with these individuals within the group are fairly similar. Peter, does the wind tamper with their senses? Wind is a fairly abrasive force. So if you take a look at it, it does trick the eye. If I can just get your attention this way, Craig. Does trick your eye. So for smaller animals, definitely it's a big thing. So if you can focus on the grass over here, that's one thing that's going to be fairly tricky if you're a small animal. So if you're a small prey item and you are worried about something sneaking up on you, that's definitely a big play on your visual aspect. But then think about how scent will be taken as well. This scent from an animal will be taken quicker, but then also a lot faster out of an area. But then most importantly, hearing. Hearing is a very, very important sense. And if you think about, if you stand directly into the wind rushing past the ear opening itself creates quite a lot of disturbance, and a predator needs element of surprise. So all these factors are very against, let's say, the prey items at this point in time. So predators do have a bit of an advantage, I personally have seen in my career. So it does hinder their senses and does kind of, it is a bit of an obstacle, let me say it at that, for sure. Remember, those sensors being finely tuned, you want the environment to be perfect as well for them to be working as good as they can be. And that's why if you look at carnivores and a lot of antelope, if you look inside the ears, if we get closer to an antelope this morning, we'll take a closer look at it. You'll see in the ear opening itself that there'll be lots and lots of hair. And what's happening is that through the ear opening, the hair is creating a barrier before it actually is entering the ear hole itself. And those little hairs are just minimizing on the disturbance from the wind. But the wind is very important to push all this beautiful stuff around. And we are expecting for today about 3 to 4 mils of rain, which is great for this ever thirsty landscape. Dawn chorus, full swing for us. Well, while myself and Craig continue south, we're going to send you off to Lauren for a little bit of adventure.
This bird looks exactly how we feel on this vehicle. Now, I think it's a brown snake eagle, It's very hard to work against the grey skies. It's really not easy when the skies are grey and there's not a lot of ambient light. But you can see, as we always say, there's no legs going down. No, there's legs. There's no feathers going down. Going down the legs. And normally you can spot that beaded yellow eye. They've got bright yellow eyes. But unfortunately in this light, I'm not entirely able to see it. So I think it's a brown snake eagle. They're similar size to a tawny. The sexes are also extremely alike, but the brown snake eagle itself is the largest of all snake eagles, not true eagles. I think I can see a glint of yellow eyes. I'm looking through my monitor, but they have very large eyes, and they're described as owl-like. And again, this is another feature that shows they're highly visual. I'm sure you can guess, but they do hunt mainly snakes. And therefore, in order to spot a snake slithering through the grass or the vegetation below from up high, they have to be very, very visual predators. Now, they'll even attack venomous snakes and large snakes. They are extremely proficient at hunting those slithering reptiles. But if they can't find any snakes, they will also go for monitor lizards. And monitor lizards themselves are very large, powerful tail, claws, and quite a bite. So they swoop down from above, naturally, and surprise their prey. They will also go for lizards and chameleons. So they really specialize in reptiles, if you like. So summer's the perfect time for these birds. Look at it just balancing in the wind. So I'm going to continue south and see if I can hear or spot anything on Miss Tandy.
Yeah, we'll go check the area as well as what there.
So warm welcome to all our viewers. We're here at Beyond Ngala, and today Beaka and I decided that we want to do a bit of a birding day to show all our viewers some of the beautiful birds we find here in the Lowveld region. And the one that we're currently looking at, if you look at the belly, you'll see it's white with some brown on the back and a white dot right in the middle of the head. So this is referred to as the Senegal lapwing. And quite different to the blacksmith lapwing as well as the crown. And they can be confused, especially from a distance. But if you look closely because of the colors, you can see we're in a nice open patch here, and there's some impala and wildebeest in the distance. So I'm Nikki, your ranger for this morning, and with me on camera is BK. And just to show you more or less what we're going to be doing this morning is we are heading down in this direction. We are going to follow the river, see if there's any signs of some of the bigger predators that we can find around, maybe lions, possibly leopards. We can pass this open area, see if there's maybe something that could be in the open. Like, remember Matt had this cheetah this morning at Pinda, maybe to find a cheetah or a wild dog, but unfortunately nothing yet. The wind is blowing quite strong, but we decided, you know what, let's try and still look for those animals, but also let's focus on the birds this morning. Often, especially with a Senegal lapwing, it's really hard to follow them because they can move quite quickly. I do enjoy also just watching their behavior. There was a swallow that flew just over them. I don't know if everyone saw it, but it's referred to as a barn swallow. So normally this time of the year they migrate down all the way to South Africa, and you find big numbers of them. And then later on in the year, as soon as it starts cooling down again towards winter time, as they'll move back north again. But look at the grey band that stretches down like a collar. Remember we were talking about those barn swallows? Now let's see, this one might just fly into the picture now. There we go. So it's hard to follow a swallow, especially even with binoculars. But BK is doing a pretty good job with this camera trying to stay with the swallow. I do enjoy birding. Now, one of the biggest things that I find with birding is that sometimes if you don't have a good enough look before you try to get to your book and try and search for them, you might not be able to get it because you didn't get enough detail. So often what I try and do is I think out loud about the different colors. So I look at the spin and say, okay, what do I see? I see the white on the front of the head. I see the gray collar. I see the white on the belly. I see the gray wings. I see the black legs. So I take as much detail as I possibly can. And then from there on, once I've had all that detail, I will then go back to my bird book and see if I can find this bird. I'll also try and listen to if there is a call that it makes, if I can associate it with something that I do know, in order to identify it. But you can see the way that it's just hunkering down now in the grass, just probably trying to get out of the wind. It is nice and cool this morning, overcast, so hopefully later on it starts warming up a bit. We were hoping for some rain, but I think with the wind being so strong, we might not get that rain this morning. But for now, we're going to leave these birds and maybe see if there's some other interesting birds in the area.
We've just stopped by Treehouse Dam. I thought we'd give you some views of the dam, all the creatures around it, and you can see the wind is making lots of little mini waves on the surface, of course. That's how strong the wind is today. But it can be very, very good weather. I can hear something on the radio. Someone's been found with a kill. I'm not sure if it's a Talamates, but I will get onto that radio soon. Just thought we'd give you a view of the dam. I don't see the resident hippo. He creates ripples of his own sometimes. And I'm sure you can hear the wind is howling around us. Which means the insects will not be fluttering and buzzing around. The wind is very strong and there's no sun, so normally they will wait. On a cold day, you don't really see the insects buzzing around as you normally do on a hot day, on a hot summer's day. You can hear the woodland kingfishers are very active, that's for sure. Nothing deters them. They have a mission and they will complete it. Although I can see patches of blue sky, I do wonder if this will sort of burn out and we may end up with sunshine after all. Wouldn't that be glorious? So I'm going to keep bumbling south and hopefully get lucky with my spots.
Welcome back, everybody. We're not too far from where we left those cheetah. Is a lovely herd of zebra and a wildebeest in the mix. You can see the zebra all have their heads down, all busy grazing. But in this herd are two, and one is slightly smaller than the other, little foals, who when we arrived were full of energy, running around and, I wouldn't say playing with one another, but just almost like chasing one another, playing a game of tag. But you can see the one now on the right, just behind its mom, is still super fluffy. I think, noticeably smaller than the other foals standing out in the open now. Just watching the older zebras and just taking in the cooler morning. I think such a lovely break from the heat that we have been getting here in Zululand. But that little one has such a crisp, clean, fluffy coat. Pete, you're asking how old this little zebra is. It's hard to sort of give an exact date of birth, because I didn't see that, but it would still be suckling from mom. You can't really see the other foal now to compare to that one, but it's minute. Still, I wouldn't say wobbly on its legs, but it just looks like legs and a tiny little body for now. Maybe a couple of weeks old, I'd say. There you can see the other foal now, who's, like I said, noticeably bigger than this one. So yeah, if a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so old, around there. Hasn't moved, it's literally just taking its surroundings in. Like a miniature version. Its mane also standing upright now. Not quite as long as her mother's, but everything just so mini. Having a bit of a scratch now, and that's mom standing just behind it. And it was interesting, there was one of the, it might have been a stallion chasing another one around, maybe a younger stallion who's potentially vying for his spot, but I don't think that one was taking any of its nonsense. Chased it around, and that was the end of that. A little bit more protected from the wind here as well for them. Anna Marie, you commenting on how cute this little foal is. Yeah, absolutely cute. And nice to compare the two foals. It's even slightly darker in colour, perhaps because it hasn't grown into those definite stripes just yet. But amazing to see, and you can even now see those, I'd say, slightly more faint secondary stripes on it as well. Here come the rest of the herd back towards this lot. There you go, now that they're standing together you can compare, but yeah, the one on the right is considerably smaller. So yeah, quite a bit younger than the one on the left. And coming straight towards us, and when it stands in profile like that, it's almost completely hidden when it stands square on. And you can see now why the collective now in a dazzle of zebras, how confusing it must be for a pride of lions who then chases something like this and they run in every which direction. But from these relaxed zebra, we're going to head off to Andrew with his very alert impala.
Zebra, indeed, yes, that can confuse some lions sometimes. Thanks, mate. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here in Subsistence, where we got a beautiful ram or with mix of females and the young impalas, which they're actually running around here. Still a little bit of a windy. My name's Andrew. I have Dove on camera, sorry. And yeah, here they are. It looks like here we got a mix of male, probably 4 males and a lot of a young one. And also a lot of a young female as well. You can see how they puffed their coat so that they provide themselves warmer. Wind actually take place since last night, and many of these antelope that have been running around separate from their own groups. You know, some of them are just maybe isolated away from the group. So this is what is happening now. So they're still not too sure. Life can be very difficult if they don't trust, because then they won't feed much at all. They're just going to concentrate on checking for a safety. Temperature for today, sitting on a 19 degrees, 69 Fahrenheit. Wind, actually it feels like we're kind of like in the winter today. This morning, it's amazing. Remember to talk to us on Under the Edge, on kids questions at wildearth.tv. Also, the adults can use Twitter on hashtag wildearth, as well as YouTube channel at FC and wildearth.tv/an explorer. And yeah, we we're able to talk to you about these animals that we're looking at right now. And the wild and the bull elephant that actually disappear right in front of us. We were hoping that he would come out to the open, but he hasn't. So he's actually just kind of moved. Probably trying to find some female around. And this kind of windy, some animals won't be actually able to come to the open. If it's extremely wind and cold, they will hide into these bushes. But impala, they have to come to the open area because they don't trust when it's too thick in the bush. Genevieve, so you know the survival rate for the impala. So it's kind of like medium survival rate. So when I'm saying medium, it happened, you know, especially this time of year where a lot of them, they have their babies, many of these babies been taken down, you know, by, you know, small cats, like leopard. So, but, you know, they're not in danger for sure. One thing that makes me happy about that, so they actually well sustainable animals to breed, and they only breed once a year. And then this time of year, you're able to see a lot of baby running around here. I might say that they're also surviving this baby, growing up already. So there is a chance to survive, but I mean, some of them will die, of course, but not all of them. So it's kind of like balance a bit for the impalas, that what makes them, you know, able to make it is that, well, in a group, it's kind of like all cooperate of lookout. It's all about lookout, and then it's all about, you know, helping each other in the group. Those in the group has a chance of survive many of times, even though the buffalo is far too big. You know, they also is the same situation. Where there's a lot of a zebra, it's the same situation, or they're more likely to mix up with impala if the zebras and these wildebeest. And sometimes you find giraffe within the group, but also it's all about safety. And there's no competition over what they have to eat on. Where you find on predators, which is then have to work harder for their kill, or they have to hunt, and they won't cooperate each other, especially if they're different species. Where leopard won't cooperate lion, lion won't cooperate leopard or cheetah, or any of these hyena or any other small carnivores, where they will be more likely to push one another. Somebody has to move off or get killed if it's a chance. But here what we find is so important that sometimes you do come across also warthogs, those are baboons mixed with impalas and that. So all there, it's all about, you know, feeding, but also for safety reasons. So now they decided to walk into that slightly mound. That's the case. So you want to know, what do the male impala started to gain their horns? So anything from 6 months, 7 months, they started to show their horns up. Can be sometimes, or 5 months, depend on where they are, and if it's so much, well, these days so much of food for them, they would able to get the milk 100% from their mother. So they can be slightly faster to gain his horn. Where most of these young ones that we've seen here, they are actually born, which is November, this December. Some of them still, you know, females still giving birth. Those are late giving birth. And it's so cool, you know, they were able to raise their young one during the whole this summer. But then the winter, which is here, anything from May, June, July, then it's the rutting season again. So this is then where all of these young ones that they're born November, December, then their horn are slightly developed longer, but I haven't actually done a twist yet. I usually have one twist and straight up. All right, so I'm gonna spend time looking around here. To actually ground is so wet to see what we're gonna find, tracks or find animal. I'm gonna be sending you over to Kylie with black smith lapwing.
Well, what a joy it is to see these little cryptically colored blacksmith lapwing chicks, and they are very busy at this point in time, scurrying about, chasing things, obviously very active at this very young stage of their lives. And really remarkable adaptation that these birds display, and is that as soon as you hatch out of that egg, you are ready to go. And these little ones are definitely showing us that walking around, feeding, and that little pattern that they have there, that the coloration that they have right now is very important to them, to keep them concealed and out of the watchful eye of other hungry tummies and eyes. But all three of them, and what a joy it is to see from egg to chick. We've just entered this pan over here, and we just come to say good morning to these little ones. But then also we're just taking a little careful listen and look around over here. So even with the wind disturbance, we are trying hard to listen for any signs. Obviously, using your senses is very important in the bush, and your sense of hearing is a very important tool. And obviously the wind is disturbing that tool right now, but we will use our other tools. Sense of smell, obviously the most important. Out of all of that is sight for us as human beings. And we're having a slight little drizzle touch the landscape, keeping things nice and cool. Yo, look at that cloud, Craig. Sarah, how many eggs could the individual lay, the blacksmith lapwing lay? It's usually 3 to 5, via my knowledge, 3 to 5 eggs. You don't want to have more eggs than that because it can become quite a handful. Not only are the chicks at a very vulnerable stage, but as well as the parents. So parents being active, defending individuals, such as this species, they will obviously defend the chicks quite aggressively, and they'll actually put themselves in harm's way and could potentially be caught. So typically 3 to 5 eggs would be laid by a bird species of this size. And just incredible to see those little things running around. They look like fluffy little marshmallows at this point in time. Those long little legs. Well, those long little legs. I'm contradicting myself there. Naomi, great question. What is the survival rate of blacksmith lapwing chicks? Naomi, I wouldn't know a percentage, but from my experience, what I've noticed with these individuals, when they have got chicks, they are very aggressive. So having that form of defense and protection really increases the chance of survival for these chicks. And I could be speaking out of context here, but I'm pretty sure that the survival rate of these chicks in general over the cross of South Africa are fairly high because of how dedicated, how devoted the parents are to these little ones. So I would say, let's say 80% success. What is that? What is it flying? What is it flying? Oh, it's a coot. Oh, sure. I thought it was a crake. They've got a beautiful red-knobbed coot that just took off there and has found a bit of shelter next to that Ziziphus. Craig was really on it there. He's going to do just well for birding. Yeah, so just back to the chicks there quickly. They would be pretty high. I'd say about 80% would reach adulthood because of the devotion that the parents have to protect those little ones. And any organism where you have a helping hand like that, you really increase the chances of survival for your offspring, which is great because that's your genetic value that is going into the system. So you really want that little individual to reach maturity and then obviously a state of reproduction. Oh, what a beautiful bird to see. Find them a bit more west. I haven't seen one here. This is a red-knobbed coot. Very distinctive bird, jet black body, and then that beautiful white frontal shield. And if you look very carefully, it's busy preening itself now. So as it turns its head, you'll see these two little round globs on top of its white shield. Lovely. You can see how strong the wind has become, just moving the camera there a bit. Clouds are moving across the landscape really fast. It's obviously preening himself. Very important behavior, especially early morning like this. Where is the father of the blacksmith lapwing? It could be feeding now. One individual is sitting with the chicks, providing a little bit of cover and shelter through this very cool and windy period. You'll find that the adults, being a monogamous pair like this, they would take turns. They would work in shifts. So where you would obviously have a helping hand in the situation here by ensuring the safety of these little ones. So where one individual will look after the chicks, defend them, protect them just like the individual's doing them now, and then your partner can go feed, do what it needs to do. And shift work here is very important to obviously keep vigilance and your own body health to a very high degree. So somewhere near here, but doing what the individual needs to do. Yeah, we're going to have a few of those that are shy about birds. Lovely. You see the rain falling there. Look at how the rain's falling. I was going to ask Craig just to show us how the rain is falling on the water. You can see the light little drizzle touching the water's edge here, and it just looks really beautiful. Look at that. Looks like insect activities. How we've watched a few insects at these bodies of water obviously breaking the surface, and that's the surface being broken by a few little raindrops. Just very beautiful setting itself. So we're going to enjoy this for a few moments, but we're going to send you off to Andrew, and he is on a tracking exercise.
Thanks, Carl. Well, it's a time of the season where every time we're expecting rain, actually. Like here where we are right now, I might say that, this morning it's been great, that is because just the wind, and then it's not yet drizzling out here where we are. But it's actually cloud, it's still heavy cloud. And all now we're focusing on, trekking, see if we can find any of new tracks. And it's easy to see that if there is any new tracks of cats that come in. I know the guys up north, they're following on Pride of Line now to assume that it's Talamati Pride making their way south. So we can actually listen to what they say if they find them. I think it's going to be very good for everybody, I think, and we're going to respond to it. Put them on the shore. So while we're in this area, we're also checking for possibly anything we can find. We're now working on the western sector. There was two also lioness tracks across, looks like last night. and I'm trying to get hold of the guys up west if there's any chance they're following them, or will be the only one following them up there. So it's quite easy to tell that way that the new tracks, because it just actually rained. And you all see all details of tracks, so you don't actually get yourself confused of not knowing how long the tracks was there. Of course, maybe you won't know how long was there, but you would know it's probably maybe midnight, since it was not much of a rain last night. Only Michael, if it actually continued rain, what happened here, the reason we spot these tracks are still neat and fresh or look fresh, it's because, you know, the rain that we had last night actually won't stop anything from 10 o'clock. So I assume that cats have maybe moved around anything from 12, maybe 3 o'clock this morning. Then there it was not raining anymore, so it was just the wind. But of course, yes, the rain can actually wash off. If it rains continuously, then impossible for us to see any tracks. Unless if they walk into very much heavily sand, then you still see they kind of like, you know, foot structure, but then you won't tell when, how long. So yeah, it happens sometimes, but you know, that I saw back there, it was, I think, easy for me, because I'll just think of what time did the rain slightly stop last night, and the whole night with not much of pouring, and then the tracks could be then fresh. But they move so much, you know. Talking about them, you know, hunting leopard, they are, or lions, they mainly focus, you know, so they face the wind, which means they will able to smell in advance what is in front of them. So sometimes they can move far away if there is nothing, or they can smell something that they can, or dead animal miles and miles away. They will able to take that journey to get there because they are attracted by the smell. So now, the prey species, they actually don't really like to face Jared. I think so many times I find lion tracks, you know, but the new tracks, those are the, sometimes you don't come across them quite a lot. You all come across lions that have walked in the area last night or day before, but you know, also we have like 2 different sprites in this area, so every time you look, you find these tracks, you know, you even know which sprite that could be. So that also depends if you have many of the lions in the area. If you don't have many of them, then maybe you hardly see even a single tracks, or maybe even a sighting won't be. So yeah, quite a few lion tracks for the last few weeks, and then it's been we had a good chance to look at the Pride, Talamati when they were around here, and when they were up north as well. So we were tracking them down there. So I've seen them quite a few times, and this morning as well. So it's cool. Lions, leopards, these male leopards. This is where now you need to look carefully, because the male leopard tracks are also bigger. That can sometimes confuse you if they step on very muddy area where it's soft, or then it shapes pretty much like a lion cub. So I'm going to continue scanning around here. Sorry. So we're just going to carry on, check around. And hopefully hopefully if they didn't move far away, we're probably going to find them. Unless if they have moved far. But if they have moved far away, then any of buffalo around here, anything they find, impalas, able to work on this, hunt them down.
We are still trying to figure out what's going on in the south. We went to the area where Tandy was last seen, but no luck. I didn't exactly think she would still be in the same area. And I'm struggling to get onto the eastern channel. But sometimes when you just check... Hello! We are checking around the south and no luck with Tandy so far on Chitwa. So sometimes it's worth just checking the boundary lines. Not the most attractive road to drive, but you can see if tracks go over or this way, and it starts to give you an indication where the animals are. Now, the ground is very hard. It's only really hyenas that make very good track marks, and of course we don't track hyenas. It's almost impossible. And they make good track marks because they're heavy walkers and they've got claws. So when they walk, they scratch the ground, and that's where we're able to sort of see them really visibly. And yeah, so
Welcome back, everybody, to Anbion Punda. One of the guards has said they've just seen a black rhino on the floodplain where we were yesterday. So I'm going to head, we're not too far from that area, a lovely open area, and he's apparently now heading towards a thicker area. A little bit of traffic. Let's see, as we come round the bend, I'm hoping that we'll at least get a glimpse of him from up above. Let's see. From a distance we can spot him. I'm going to park up here, up at the top. Let's have a look here quickly with the binoculars. See if he's on the move. Straight out in the open, have a look at that. Head up, and it's incredible to think we were here yesterday in amongst the zebra and wildebeest that I think graced your televisions yesterday as well. And nice to now see when he stands side on, just the one saddle in his back, as opposed to the two of the white rhino, who we could very well find in these open grasslands as well. That black rhino is probably out there, was maybe feeding on some sickle bush or some of the younger growth. This area was all burnt in August, so it's probably got quite a bit of nutritional value for him. But head up and I'm sure you might be able to make out that hook lip you see is slowly but surely on the move, and it might be worth us going down to the bottom of the floodplain, at least to eye level with him, to see if he is walking in the direction of the road before he disappears completely. In fact, I want to do that. We should be able to show you him a little bit closer. Let's do that. To ask mate with a black rhino. It's not something that I've ever seen, but they are different species, and the weight of a black rhino would probably do some serious damage. So no, they are different species entirely of rhino. So I don't think we'd ever see that happening.
Sorry, Pina. So here we are right now, still now checking these lines, our line prior that it looks like there was only 2 sets of aligned tracks that came this way. But it looks like there's quite a few people that are in the area already, just found out who would all be on them as well. Because you never know, maybe they've been on a hunt for probably the whole night. The guys will be checking on the other side, and I'll be checking this side now to the east again. And news that I had there, because it looks like they're all Pride tracks. Because the Pride looks like they're actually making their way back to Djuma, direction of probably, if they're going to move south more, then they'll appear somewhere, maybe Bereshoek Dam. The guy says they're on the tracks following them. They haven't found them yet, which is, I think, if I may go that side or look around, because these tracks here, I doubt if I may spend time, and then, of course, if the guys find them, because there's more guys trekking on them, so 2 lionesses. So I'm going to go back there in case there is Dalamathi's crossing to Djuma, and then we're able to help each other there until we got lucky finding them. So what happens, every time you see tracks, it can look fresh, but these animals have been doing a lot of movement at night, where they maybe have been pushed so much further away. At some point where you get lucky, sometimes they're static for a while. This is where you find them, or maybe find them hunting, because there's still opportunity for them with the weather that they have had this morning since last night. Was all the weather change, windy, that's what Kets likes the most. Tall grass is a chance for them to sneak through close enough to the prey species, if there's a chance. Where Dalamathi's is actually many of them in a group, so they successful hunter animals where they now cooperate and they all hunt in a group. In the same time, there's a chance they'll corner it. Whether there's Impala's group, whether there's the zebras, whether there's a wildebeest, those type giraffe, they can still do it. But so many of the antelope, kudu, also love to be in the thicket. Even it's windy, they don't come out very well, those kudus, because they mean to be in the bush also, those nyalas. So it's quite a lot of prey species they may hunt around here. So I'm going to spend time working around, helping the guys. With the weather like this, it's actually, if it's ever poured again, and I'm sure those old tracks, we won't going to see them. So it's good that, the rain is just hold off for now. That is easy to actually able to see what we're doing. As you can see on the horizon, looking at the eastern sector now, where it's still, heavy cloud. So maybe during the course of the day we might receive another shower. Where indeed we still need a lot of rain, I might say. Well, if we have a lot of rain, then it's not a problem, because then you have animals in the reserve, all different species, and all different preference of feeding on this vegetation that we have. Browsers, grazers, and some of these browsers, they only browse, they don't take any grasses. Some of the grazers, they don't take any herbs or anything from trees. So it's quite a lot of different feeding methods on these type of antelope we have around here. So it's good to have rain, or we have plenty of grasses, trees, bushes all covered green. So I'm gonna carry on drive along this path road. I'm gonna be sending you over to Kyle with his greenery scenery.
Welcome back. We have found a sheltered little spot here in between the dunes, and we are just doing a thorough scan across this very vast landscape for any signs of anything. The wind has picked up a bit, and obviously, like we spoke about in the beginning of the morning, obviously that is a huge factor, playing tricks on our eyes, but also hindering our sense, just like they would for animals. Sight, smell, and as well as hearing would be affected through periods like this, but it is an advantage for predators to utilize. But what we are doing is just scanning in between the dune streets itself, and obviously with this carpet of green that we have right now, an animal that's spotted is fairly easy to see. Well, not all the time. But just a beautiful spot to stop and appreciate all that is in front of us. Elizabeth, wonderful comment there. Good morning. The landscape of Tswalu is beautiful. It is really breathtaking. And depending where you are, it's continuously changing. So I like to say Tswalu is, you don't need the animals to be entertained here, but you have constant eye candy. The variation in topography, the colors, the general shape of the vegetation, it's just limitless. I mean, my 4 years being here, I'm still standing here, I'm like, wow, look at this. Just lovely. Quite windy. So I can see a few oryx in the distance, but very far, all huddled behind bushes. You'll find that animals through windy periods like this would actually hunker down behind a bush and use a bush or a shrub as a bit of a shelter, a bit of a barrier, so that obviously the animal's hearing can be kept to a high degree. What are you? Oh. But lovely. The wind moving quite strongly from the eastern side. But we're going to continue west of Greece. We're going to send you over to Matt, and he has got some zebra.
Welcome back, everybody. That black rhino has since disappeared, but in the same vicinity is a rather large herd of wildebeest and zebra, and both have youngsters. There are a couple of zebra foals again, and then those lighter coloured wildebeest calves. I know Nikki Muller mentioned the birding morning. Now that, at least for us here, it's starting to warm up earlier on when it was quite gloomy. We even had a couple of raindrops. Not the best birding conditions for us. But that's since stopped. And just listening, I can hear what I think is a blue-cheeked bee-eater, but I can't see it. I'd have to show you it in person. It's not the same in a book. But these zebra that you haven't pictured now, there's that little foal that you see there standing just next to Mom, was running around at a turn of pace that I've never seen before, or at least with a little zebra foal darting between herds, and then eventually came to an abrupt halt next to its mother. But lots of little wildebeest calves in the mix there as well. There's two. Linda, you're asking how zebras communicate with each other. I'm not sure if you've heard their call. I'm not very good at mimicking calls, but they've got a very distinct call that sometimes people even mistake as a bird call that they use to communicate with one another. There's also grooming that they use to communicate with one another, and just their body language as well, I guess, is another which way that they'll communicate with one another. And I'm really hoping, I think we actually heard it yesterday, that whistle that you heard now is maybe not the same, but similar to the sound that they make. And you can hear them sometimes. And yeah, I think we heard it last night, but just sitting now patiently, hoping that one of them potentially does that for you, Linda, or at least makes the call. I think all the animals are really like that black rhino we saw earlier, just enjoying the cooler conditions. On hot days, they'd find themselves in maybe a bit of a mud wallow or areas that are just sheltered from the sun. Zebra and wildebeest out here as well, also super relaxed. You can see quite a few of the wildebeest are lying down. But super special to see that black rhino and out in the open before it disappeared. Jay, you're asking why zebra and wildebeest always hang out together. Well, for a number of reasons. Obviously, safety in numbers, more eyes to see things coming, the better. Out here as well, there's just really good grazing for both of them. Zebras, being the bulk grazers that they are, will eat quite a bit of the top halves of the grasses out here. And then wildebeest, being the select grazers that they are, will then go and mow the grass and eat the bottom half, or what the zebras don't eat. So they sort of work in tandem like that. But yeah, for safety, and this just being a really good area for grazing, is why they are together in the vicinity. And it's not just this herd. If I look further left, there are quite a few different herds of zebra and wildebeest all in the same area. But a low-lying area, this, so obviously the floodplain, we call it. When you get significant rains, this would be all underwater. So the grass is down here, maybe a little bit more nutritious with the runoff from the mountains or the hills in the background. So, yeah, a number of reasons. I think safety for all of them, especially now with all the babies around, of utmost importance. But yeah, not to say that they'll stick around forever. The zebra might move off into other areas, especially once they've mowed this area completely flat. But you will still find the odd wildebeest bull, and you can have a look at those two in the left now in the picture, it looks like they're down on their front knees, but that's exactly how they fight. They go down on their knees like that to lock horns, and you can see them actually having a bit of a jostle now. Maybe doesn't look like adults, but two younger ones trying to establish dominance between themselves. Or, yeah, the one at the back now looks like a younger one just trying his luck with one of the older males. You can just see their tails going with their bums in the air. But yeah, so like I was saying, the males, wildebeest bulls, will be territorial, and you might find one of them that will stick around. But I might carry on and see if we can't, I know we spoke about those elephants, see if we can't find those elephants.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Why is the Mara special? It's one of the only few places that you can find the annual wildebeest migration. I will still go for the lion. The main reason is a sign of royalty, leadership in my tribe, and apart from that, over here, it is feared by all but loved by everyone.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
I've had to stick around because I've heard that bee-eater again, that blue-cheeked bee-eater, and I'm looking up top of every little bush and shrub around in amongst the zebra and wildebeest. I can still, in fact, I think I've found it flying off to our right-hand side. I'm going to ask Owen if it lands. I might just have to shuffle and go back a bit, but it's super well camouflaged. So just, can you see it, Owen? It's flown off again. At the back in the dip. We've just had a glimpse of it, but I would like to show you this bird. There flies one, and it's perched. And you see where that bark has been stripped from that tree? Just up on the right-hand side of that tree is where that blue-cheeked bee-eater is. Brilliant. That, I'm not sure... Oh, I lie. It's not a tree whose bark has been stripped. It's a fever tree. But there you can see that blue-cheeked bee-eater. I thought I heard it calling earlier. But I think one of my favorite families of birds, that you see that blue eye line and the greenery, so they blend in really well when they are perched at eye level. There it flies off. Brilliant. A really nice bird to add to the list for all of you avid couch twitchers back home. There, one's flying a little bit closer to us. I wonder, even better. Have you got the... Brilliant. Just behind one. A couple of fantastic. Really, really pretty birds, those. This one ruffling up its feathers this morning, also starting to get all chirpy. Lovely little white patch on its neck, just below its bill. The Terminator, you're loving all the birds this morning. Me too, now that the weather's holding up for us quite nicely. The sun threatened to poke itself out behind the clouds, but has since disappeared again. But all of them starting to get a lot more active this morning, and for us to at least get that bird in picture, because they are quite busy birds, those. I wouldn't be surprised if this one takes off quite soon. To see him like that is a treat. Other birds that we can look out for here is a Senegal lapwing, a little bit smaller than the crown lapwings and the blacksmith lapwings that you would have seen otherwise, but they've got that very distinct yellow eye. Might have to have a look around for one of those, but yeah, Terminator, we have been very spoiled with the birds this morning, that's for sure. And for this particular chap to stick around as much as it had, is also quite something. And like I was saying yesterday, when we do get significant rain, this area changes completely. In fact, I think just behind where this blue-cheeked bee-eater is perched, that area fills up completely. It's the Munywana River fills up completely with water, and that is when we'd be able to find things like black kukels, which are really special to see and hear, as well as, I've never seen it on this reserve, but I know some of the guys have when there is significant rains here, is the rosy-throated longclaw, which is a particularly pretty bird. But this bee-eater is giving us some amazing views this morning. Up in the area where maybe Nikki and Lauren are, you might be able to see things like the Carmine bee-eater, bright red bird, which is also super pretty. But I think we'll carry on to see if we, like Andrew, who has found some elephants, can't do the same ourselves.
It's like a puncture on that trunk, huh? Thank you very much. And talking about elephants, lucky that we got anyone here. Looks like it's actually a small herd. It's not a big herd. Thanks. Talking about elephants, looks like we got a small herd over here where they're just coming out of the bush, and it looks like they're feeding slowly. They might actually get across now to Djuma, I believe so, where they're now in the north, in Bemlishoek. And I doubt, looks like she's now changing her direction again, moving away from us. And it looks like there's an older one there. It's probably for now. If it's not in the matriarch, which happened, then in the matriarch there is a senior female, though then she also have an experience that she will assist the matriarch whenever the matriarch has got the other group, and here, this one over here, she will be taking care of these, but then she will rejoin again with them. And they're very active animals, and they are social. Look at this one, a young one started to come out. Looks like a two of a young one that I saw in a group, and the rest of them could be big herd. we'll find out when they all come out to the other side if they actually change the directions coming our way. We're definitely going to see all of them. Isaac, 9 years old. I think I understand why they want to know how long is an elephant trunk. So it's kind of 7 feet somewhere there. It's long it gets. Maybe 2 meter, 2.5 meter average. And it looks like they're coming out to the other side there, so I'm just gonna stay here, see if they might actually change direction to come our way with the wind. Understand, with animals that are so big, would think that don't get cold. They do get cold, just like us. Whenever it's hot, you need a shed or swimming pool. Where these animals, when it's cold, it's about the same. They need to swim when it's hot. They need to swim and they need to be in a shade. It's so that sometimes they don't have much time to spend standing because they're so big. They need to sustain their weight and they need to get a lot of food a day. So now it's wind, cold, where they need cover. And they're more likely to move like this. So I'm going to try to reposition here. Then I'm going to be sending you over to Lauren with her bird.
We've got some white-crested helmet shrikes here. But I think we're looking at the juveniles. The juveniles have got a sort of fluffy appearance and a greyer helmet. That sort of grey thing that's sitting on their head. It's just feathers, but that's where they get their name from. The adults have bright yellow eyes, but I think this is the juveniles. And we know that there was lots of chicks not so long ago. And once they start to grow from the size that we were looking at as chicks, this is what they look like. I'm not sure at what stage the eye goes yellow, but definitely as a juvenile, their eye stays black. Isn't this so lovely? There's 2 of them. Also hiding from the winds, just like Andrew's elephants. We're actually waiting to get into a sighting. There's a bit of a lineup, so we just thought we'd stop and admire what's going on around us. Oh, they're huddled closely together. They also, not only do they lack the yellow eye, they actually lack the eye wattle. Now, with the adults, they have what they call a wattle going round the circumference of the eye, which makes the eye look even bigger and even yellower, if that makes sense. So as a juvenile, they lack both the coloration and the wattle. Oh, they're quite difficult birds to get on camera, believe it or not. They're very common, but they're very busy. During the day, they're always fluttering. Mary, you're saying it's a birding morning and you love it. I'm glad. The weather is making it very difficult for all of us, I think, but I'm hoping to show you some spots soon. Once I get into this lineup, I hope we will have some spots for you soon. But I agree, Mary, it's nice to just stop. And it's only when you stop and look around, that's how you find nests and chicks and eggs and little juveniles like this. Now, they're cooperative breeders, helmet shrikes. And they're monogamous, so you'll have a male and female pair, but together they'll join up with other male and female pairs. And groups can vary from 2, your male and your female, to 10 when they're in breeding groups. We've got a very interesting social structure. Oh, they're huddled together for warmth. It really is chilly today. It's not pleasant. And if you've got a breeding pair that's a male and female, normally the other birds are known as the helpers. And the helpers will assist the monogamous pair, and they will also feed the monogamous pair's chicks. It can be really difficult for little birds when the wind is so strong as it is today. And when it comes to the nest, normally everyone in this sort of group, the combined effort of everyone, there'll be siblings in there as well. So it's not too unlike wild dogs, really. There'll be your alpha pair, and then there'll be relatives. And it's normally the siblings that actually feed the little chicks. They'll go catch insects, bring it back, come back and feed the chicks. And there's normally one adult that will stay guarding the nest. Not right next to the nest, but in close proximity. And the nests are normally sort of situated on combretums. So hopefully very shortly I will have some spots and we're going to send you across to another location.
So we're back here at Ambjörn Ngala, and you'll just hear in the background the wind is starting to pick up again, and there is a bit of a drizzle, but we managed to get to this very large pod of hippos, or raft of hippos in the water. Now there were some babies amongst them, so if we spend some time here we might just see one of them coming up again. See, right in between these ones here, I thought I saw the little one there. But it is a beautiful waterhole. The whole scene is just so incredible. So what we'll do is after these hippos, I just want to show you the waterhole that we are at. And there's quite a few common animals around, like waterbuck, there's some impala. So this is the beautiful waterhole we're at. And right here, so right in front of us, off to just this side here, you'll notice there's quite a few impala there. And just left of that, there's a beautiful waterbuck. You can see very, very large horns. He's quite a spectacular bull. And hence the name waterbuck. I mean, they're often seen around the water, especially these more prominent water sources. LP, they'll have to worry about the crocodiles. So, I mean, there are quite a few crocodiles in this particular waterhole here, and we've seen them catching a wildebeest before. So, I mean, imagine a wildebeest is probably the same size or slightly bigger than that waterbuck. So there's a good chance that if that waterbuck is not too careful around the water's edge, I mean, a crocodile could easily go for it. But what's interesting is that with all those impalas, all of them are males, and of course that waterbuck being a male, so he's probably with this herd of impala because of how strong the wind is blowing. They've moved into a bit of an open area, so it's just easier for them, and it just increases their chance of survival. Because you can see all of them are males that are here. It's quite a big group of males. It's almost like the one we saw last night. imagine how difficult it must be for a predator to try and sneak up on these impala or this waterbuck. Because there's barely any cover, they're out in the open, there's so many eyes and ears that are around. So it'd be super hard. But just an incredible scene. I just want to be quiet so you can hear the birds in the back. You can hear the wind blowing through the branches of the trees. And just listen to the distant noises of the Egyptian geese, as they're called. Definitely, I have seen that before, which is interesting enough, where a crocodile was latched onto an animal's leg, and all of a sudden the hippo came and freed that particular animal, or like chased the crocodile off. But I've also seen when an animal got stuck, like let's say like an impala in the mud, and then suddenly the hippo goes and kills it. So I mean, it can go either way. Often the more territorial bulls tend to be more aggressive towards animals, especially in the wintertime when the water starts concentrating and there's not a lot of water around. Then they'll most likely defend it more than try and help. But I've seen both of them where they actually help the animals, but I've also seen where an animal is stuck and then the hippo goes and kills it, like near the water's edge. And I mean, a hippo only eats grass, so there's no need for it to kill an animal to eat it. So it was very interesting behavior to watch. And often if they do lie in the water like this, they remind me of an iceberg, because you can only see the very tip of the iceberg, but the rest of the body, I mean, like a big hippo could weigh up to 2 tons. It's as heavy as this vehicle that we're driving now. And that's all mostly under the water, so you don't always see this size, and especially mostly with hippo, because we always view them from a bit of a higher angle, you don't really appreciate how big they are until, of course, you're eye level with them. Later, they have quite a thick layer of skin and fat that helps them keep warm. It's very interesting. I mean, they are mammals, so they're warm-blooded. So whenever they do feed, they'll be able to regulate their body temperature through metabolic processes. However, I think another way probably is by, if they wedge themselves in and they all bundle together. I mean, there is a bit of warmth there as well. But I think a lot of it has to do with their skin, and also with their behavior. just notice how some of them have their heads up quite high, and they don't actually keep their heads up like that the whole time. They're resting their heads probably on the back of another hippo. Might just give it some bit of time and see if that's the case. But I'm trying to scan around the waterhole. I haven't seen anything else. You might notice a few droplets around the hippos, as well as the ripples in the water. There is a slight bit of rain coming through now, but the wind in general is just really, really strong. Look over here, there's a waterbuck that's just come down to drink. Now notice she doesn't have any horns, because the males have the horns and the females they don't. But how beautiful is her, like if you look at her colors, that white ring around the bum, quite fluffy around the neck, and the nose, with that bit of white line around it, almost looks like the shape of a heart, with that white around the eye. You can see she's very wary when she goes down to the water to drink, often especially with, like as our discussion earlier on about the crocodiles, is that she'll first scan, have a look, see if there's anything, look behind her, possibly see that nothing stalks her from the back, go and have a drink, and then immediately once you finish moves away from the water's edge. There's another one coming down. Chrissy, they are. I mean, if you compare them against something like a leopard would often be by itself. Or let's say, I'm trying to think of possibly another example we can use in this regard. So any of them, like more the cats tend to be solitary, whereas if you accept, of course, with lions, especially with the females. However, if you look at this waterbuck here, often the females are seen together in herds, so they are quite social with that. It's not like you're going to find one waterbuck here and for the next little while there's going to be no waterbuck and then another one here. They do tend to gather together in groups. And then the males, of course, when they get to a certain age, they are pushed away from the rest of the herd because there will be a more dominant male that will be around the females. So they could become solitary or not as social as the rest. But however, whenever there's an opportunity to join up with the herd, they'll definitely take that opportunity, especially if the males get big enough to do that. But for now, like some of the males that are kicked out, they'll often join with other animals like impala, maybe even join up with zebra or something near the water, just because of the safety in numbers. Just going back to the hippo, because this waterbuck are moving away from the water's edge, so it's really hard with the angle at which we are sitting to try and follow them. Now, like with a day like today, because it's not so warm, you might even find that during the next few hours that these hippos could even come out and start feeding, because it's a nice and cool day, and then eventually head back into the water.
Thanks, Nikki. Indeed. Well, it's not actually really for us here. It's a wind, so it's cold. And as you can see also, we got a young male kudu in this bush. This is an amazing, actually, for such an antelope. I know we're always talking about the impalas, they find themselves in the open area, even though it's too wind. The one that do seek for a shelter or cover, but then maybe for safety is not great. But now we talk about kudu, where this specific antelope, or those inyalas most bush bog. They are, they prefer covered most. But what drives them in there, it's all about what they need to eat. So they browsers, especially with kudu, they strictly browse. But if you look at their ears, it's see how big they are. Looking at the young male, maybe roughly 2 years old or somewhere there, I can put, or 2 years and a half. But looking at the length of these horns, only one twist and then it's about to do another twist. So only time you shoot the horns came out, then this is when they're real old, kind of one twist about, and then 2 years, so roughly maybe 2.5 years old. Kudus. So I'm gonna help the guys here search for this pride of lions. Hope we find them.
So just back with these hippos, they're still very, very relaxed, and there's barely been any movement with them. I'm having a look and I can see there's some helmeted guinea fowls that are coming down to drink water near where those impalas were earlier. So just to move across back this way, you'll see down earlier on, remember we had the impala on the water bucket, so you'll see there's some helmeted guinea fowls now making their way down to drink. And just in the back is remember we said we're doing some birding today? It's one of the things now. Look at the guinea fowl, a very prominent crest. Well, not a crest, like a helmet on top of the head. Quite a bit of blue around the face and grey body with white spots. And just behind them there was a blacksmith lapwing. So it's nice. We've been able to rake up a few birds. Unfortunately, some of the areas that we have driven through, we've seen some amazing birds, but the signal in those areas are really limited because of it being in like quite low-lying areas. But it's nice to be able to be at a waterhole where we can just sit and enjoy this peaceful scene with all the animals coming down to drink. And just also there's some impalas right of where these guinea fowls are, sizing each other up. So see the two on the right there. So if you look at the way that they are fighting, it's not a really intensive fight. It's just sizing each other up. So basically just establishing dominance amongst them. See who's the stronger one. See how they just lock their heads there now. Can imagine as soon as the one moves around, they have to be so careful because just a slight mistake could mean a horn into the neck, or maybe even the other one breaking the other one's neck. The other day we found a dead impala with a puncture wound on the neck, and it might have been from two males like this fighting with one another, and probably the one, or it was more of an intensified comparison to this. And the one probably just missed his angle, and then that horn went into his throat, and unfortunately he passed away because of that. So they have to be really, really careful. And most of the animals, wow, just look at that impala behind these ones. You'll notice how big those horns are. Just to the left at the top of the screen there. That's a really big bull. Ram. I can see it's so cold this morning, I haven't woken up yet. James, with the other males, if it gets too serious, like I haven't really seen them interacting too much, because normally what will happen is the one will start chasing each other, and then the others, of course, will start chasing one another. Like especially during the rutting season, you might find more of it. But with this being more of a play fight and more of a like just a light go at each other for dominance, you won't really see that the other males will get too much involved if it gets too serious. Normally the one will hopefully break away and run off, and then the other one will chase that one. But I mean, anything's possible with, especially with animal behavior. I've learned that you do find the rare occasion where things happen. You don't really read it in any book or see it anywhere else. And I'm sure it could happen. Imagine how with these fighting, it's during the rutting season, suddenly one male decides like he wants to show his dominance, then he could definitely get involved here. Looks like this fight might become more and more serious. Can actually hear the horns from here. And we're quite far off. We're probably close to 70, 80 meters away from these impala. We can hear them clashing their horns. So while we enjoy this for maybe the next minute or two, let's head across to Mike with some zebra.
And while Nikki's enjoying those impalas, we're enjoying this dazzle of zebra in zebra plains as they feed away at the little bits of grass that are in between all this thick herbaceous growth. Maybe even nibbling at some of the herbs themselves. But there's lots of other animals in this clearing, which is why they all feel very relaxed. Some impalas and wildebeest as well, enjoying a little bit of this windy, much cooler weather that we're having today. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is Gert, and you've joined us at Eco Training Pride Lands Conservancy, where that wind that we experienced yesterday in the afternoon has continued throughout the night and is still pumping through Pride Lands in this area. Hasn't really brought us much rain, unfortunately, but as you can see, it is very, very windy still, and we've seen a lot of scattered impala herds, some individuals here and there, even some lonely impala lambs. So I think during the night there's been a lot of predator activity of things like lions and leopards moving through the area trying to hunt using the cover of this wind. Whether they've caught anything or not is another story. We haven't found any definite signs, but we've seen tracks around. And certainly when you see impala lambs by themselves, it's not a good sign. It's usually a sign that they've been chased by something. And with all this wind, it makes it very difficult for them to find each other again. Best just to stick to these clearings and hope for the best. In fact, most of the animals that we've seen that were split up are just standing dead still, waiting for a noise or a sound that will give, or a scent maybe, that will give them an indication of which direction to move in order to find the rest of the herd again. Berlin, that's a great question. It probably takes 3 to 4 years for the impala female to start breeding fully. It might be able to breed at about 2 years old, maybe even a bit older, but they won't really be in full breeding, age until about 4, I'd say. That's an estimation. I'm sure some animals is a bit earlier, some might be a bit later. I know for the male impalas, they only reach their sexual maturity at about 4. But they only really breed closer to 6 or 7. That's when they get large and strong enough to really win those sparring and fighting matches in order to dominate a herd. There's so many lambs at the moment still. And that's the whole point of the strategy. Flood the area with a lot of lambs, stay in big groups, and you've got a much better chance of surviving, or at least your offspring surviving. When it's something like giving birth to just one impala in the middle of nowhere, then it becomes a target for every predator. And a predator that would like to eat these would be a crocodile. So let's send you over to one.
Welcome back, everybody. We've come to one of the larger watering holes here on Phinda, and lying on the banks you can see a fairly large Nile crocodile, and then just below that in the water is another crocodile. I think, maybe a bit misled into thinking that it was going to be a warmer day to come out onto the banks and warm up this morning. Sun every so often threatens to come out, but no such luck. You might see now flying overhead in picture a couple of spoonbills and yellow-billed storks coming down to the water's edge. But a little bit further below that, and if I move out Owen's way, you might be able to see a grey heron on the back of a hippopotamus trying to catch a bite to eat this morning. Earlier on, it tried to land on one of their backs, or in fact both of their backs, and they were having none of it. They kicked up a bit of a fuss, pushed the water, made a bit of a song and dance in the water, and then disappeared down below, so it couldn't land on their backs. But now I see one of them is playing ball. And for them, where they are, things like frogs or fish that could potentially swim a little bit closer to the surface where they are, could be something that they might catch. And in this watering hole as well are a number of baby crocodiles. There was a clutch of maybe around 30 of them. But we're going to head off to Lauren, who I think is with the leopard.
You will not believe it, everyone. Sibui just attacked Sutu. I cannot believe we just witnessed this. I've never seen a female leopard do this like that. We've been sitting here for quite some time, and Sutu came up because Sibui's under this marula with a kill. Sibui went for her. Sutu screamed and ran off. My goodness. Tlalamba and Thandi, they tend to run. That was so incredible. Oh, she's not happy. We've been waiting at this sighting, and Sutu was obviously driven towards the smell. The kill is hoisted. It's an impala. I think it's or maybe it's not Sutu. It looks like her. I don't think Sibui managed to actually grab her, but she tried. Wow. It was an incredible interaction. And it just shows you that leopards react differently to hyenas, because generally speaking, Tlalamba does tend to run. Sibui did not. It's so lovely to see her again. We had her yesterday. Okay, now she has a big stick in her face. Shall I roll back for you, Simon? There we go. Then that's exactly what happens if a leopard does snarl and chase off a hyena. I'm sure it was Sutu. She ran. Sutu's young, remember, June's daughter, but still she ran. And I'm more than sure that if our other leopards were to chase the hyenas would also run. Oh, that was so incredible. Now she's relaxed, but she's alert. Look, she's alert. Leopards know. They know that hyenas come to their kill side. Now, if she goes up the tree, it's going to be tricky for us because we've got our roof on, but we'll maneuver, don't worry. That stick is just so lovely, Simon. Yes. Okay, we're going to roll back just a little bit. Isn't she beautiful? We're on Chitwa, everyone, further south of the dam, just in case you're wondering where we are. And Sibui has an impala lamb stashed up. Isn't she beautiful? I'm sad our 2 cubs are not with her, but that's okay. At least we've got spots of some sort. She's watching Sutu. I can see Sutu lurking around way off in the distance. She's watching her. That was so incredible. And I think you're saying she's gorgeous, beautiful, strong, powerful, and agile. I think, yes, she is. She's beautiful. Sibui's retained her pink nose. She's easy to recognize because her nose is still very, very pink, really pink. And now she's on high alert because of Sutu's presence. We don't often get to see Sibui. It comes and goes. We can traverse Chitwa, of course, but she spends a lot of time on Little Gowrie, where we can't traverse, Hoffman's, Annette's, and unfortunately we cannot go there. So when she is on Chitwa, we have to make sure we spend as much time with her as possible. She's still not relaxed, is she? She's got a 2-2 spot pattern, so she's also quite easy to identify from that. It's a very simple spot pattern. And her 7th birthday was just last month. So she's in her prime, half of Tandy's age. And Sibui, I believe, is an area in Mala Mala, which is actually where she comes from. And they named her after the area. It doesn't actually have a meaning, and her litter mate is the Piccadilly female. That's her sister. So really, Tandy and Sibui were both on Chitwa last night, and Chitwa's a small property. So I wonder if Tandy's also got a kill stashed somewhere. It's very possible. Nina, the average age for leopards to start reproducing is around 4 as a female. Depends on a lot of factors, biologically, physiologically, environmentally, socially, but generally the average age is around 4 or in their 4th year. Once they've established a territory, that comes first. Establish your territory, ensure that you're now a territorial female, which will biologically bring on a change in behaviour, and make sure you've got enough resources and, well, you're strong enough. They say that primiparity among female leopards is heavily influenced by social and physiological factors. Now, they can start mating around 3 years old biologically, but normally by 3 years old, they're still establishing their territory. And this is very general, it will change across the board. But by 3 years old, they're still establishing their territory. So physiologically, they're capable of conceiving, and biologically they are, but it's highly unlikely that they could actually successfully raise cubs until they're fully settled. So most females have established full residency by their 4th year, and that secures them access to all resources which are necessary for pregnancy, lactation, and rearing. It's all very energetically costly. So yes, normally by year 4 they'll have in their first litter. And as I mentioned, Spui does have 2 cubs, Shasha and Langa, 1 male, 1 female, and they're now a year and coming up for 5 months. So very soon, Sibui's female cub, I'm afraid, will start to be pushed to independence. It's normally around a year and a half. But again, that's a general figure. It may be slightly earlier, it may be slightly later, but generally speaking, it's 18 months that the female cubs start to get pushed out and they go seek independence. But it's a long process. I hear the rain falling on our rain roof. Hopefully it doesn't get too heavy. We got really caught up in it yesterday. I cannot believe that interaction with Sutu. It's nice to see Sutu as well. She's sometimes around the den and sometimes not. You don't see her for a while. But Sibui also has an older female daughter called Kapona, and she will be 3 now, yes, coming up for 4. Oh no, just turned 3, sorry. Oh. Okay, we're getting slightly wet here. I don't know how long I'll be able to stay at this sighting, but we're going to put our rain covers on and hope for the best.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortides Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we'd normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Thanks, Matt. Look what you just find. A herd of elephants, now close and personally, right in front of our vehicle on the road. It's an amazing just to spend a lot of time searching around for the animal that they're actually trying to move away from. They're colder, but they now find them on the road here. It's incredible, amazing. These all are just, they're probably just gonna walk past by. As you can see, these young ones, all playful, pushing one another. We're all gonna be surrounded by the elephant, which is so cool. And they look dry. I don't know where they were then during all this pouring of rain. So incredible. Look at this young one. Now you can see truly a closer look at the skin. I mean, it's amazing. Hello, young gulp. This is one of the females in this. There's quite a few females in this herd. And there's also a male within this herd as well. Looks like a big male. There he is. That's a big male. Pushing the young male away. Look at this young one. Trying to understand how do they get out of here. But we're not blocking them the road, so the rest of them on the side of the road. Which, whenever they want to pass by, they will also do the same. They will just gonna walk. So you want to know how biggest herd I ever seen. So out here, if I remember correctly, I think was nearly 40 of them in one of the open area. And that it was a big herd. And some witnesses about maybe 70 of them in a herd around here. But then to actually able to count them, it's got to be enough open area, because otherwise, you know, when they're in the bushes, it's impossible for you to count. So, but I had a time to count those myself. There was about 40 of them in a group. And that was actually a massive group. I didn't actually able to count those. So I'm gonna just let them pass by. I'm gonna turn around, follow them, which is amazing. The elephant finally in this wet. So while I'm turning around here, I'm gonna be sending you over to Kyle with this bird on a tree.
Talking about snug and secure locations, it doesn't get better than this. This beautiful female golden-tailed woodpecker just observing us while we are observing it from its humble abode. And you can see it, what a secure location it is. Just her head peering out of that hole. We can see it's a female because of the forehead of the bird. You can see a little bit of speckling, but general uniform black on the front of the forehead between the eyes, where it goes this dark strip almost to the back of its head. So with that dark frontal shield, this is a clear indication that this is a female that's sitting in this lovely little nest. More than likely going to be used this season, so she would have chipped out and excavated out a nice little depression, and then she would have used those wood chippings for a little bit of mattress or a little bit of lattice, so to say, for it to obviously make things a bit comfortable for her and the eggs, where she might use this for this breeding season. Really remarkable birds if you think about the adaptations and how they chip away on wood. Constant headache, I think they must have, but really remarkable ability to chip out on such hardwood such as this camel thorn. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of dedication to get through it. It does look very nice and snuggled. It's got to be nice and warm in there as well. Obviously very important. Warmth is a very important thing when it comes to birds and incubating the eggs. But it is a brilliant location. In terms of security, not a lot is going to get in there. Maybe a boomslang, or maybe some insects, but not a lot. So she makes it just wide enough so that she can enter and exit to obviously tend to the eggs. There comes the male. Oh, wow, look at that. Wow. So look at the frontal shield now on this male. Look how it's dark red. And then tapering away to the back of his head, it's blood red. You can see hers is black. Wow. Absolutely beautiful. So that very specialized foot structure, you can see the toes of this bird, specially designed to do what it's doing now. Its toes, or its foot structure, along with its tail feathers. So its toes, 2 forward, 2 back. It's what we refer to as a zygodactylous foot structure. Perfectly designed to cling, but then look at that very thick shaft tail feathers. So it's actually clinging on with its feet, but then propping itself up and holding itself towards, or pulling itself towards the trunk of the tree with those stiffened shaft feathers. Wow. What a beautiful bird to see. Sure. You can see where it gets its name golden-tailed from. Looking at that movement, it looks like you might be feeding the chicks, folks. There's no food item in his beak, so maybe not. These birds predominantly feed on ants and termites. It makes a very large majority of their diet. Obviously, the presence of those species are very important for these beautiful birds. Look at the size of that beak. Very heavily set. You can see if the bird wasn't there, you can see the color of the bark, how it's discolored from the activity of the birds moving along the side and then going into the hole. They discolor the actual bark itself. But this camel thorn providing a perfect haven for these birds. They can also be hijacked by things like barbets. I've seen barbets hijack woodpeckers' nests. It's not very nice of them, but it's a very clever tactic. We're going to continue watching this woodpecker for a bit, but for now we're going to send you over to Lauren, where she's got some elephants. What is it? Oh, no.
Now Sutu's still lurking around the ground somewhere. Sibui's lunge didn't scare her that much. It's obviously not deterred her away. And Sibui's aware that there's a hyena lurking around. It doesn't scare her. She's not going to run. Now, Sibui happens to be a big female leopard, and Sutu happens to be a small hyena. But still, she absolutely launched at her, claws, teeth, and all. And Sutu, of course, cannot resist. The smell is just far too delicious. She cannot resist coming to inspect in case there's a little bit that's fallen on the ground. It's so lovely to spend time with this leopard. Can you just go up a little bit, Simon? I think she's got a tick. Oh, she's just moved. I think she's got a tick on her left ear, the inner part. I think that's a tick. Leopards can get lots and lots of ticks. That's entirely normal for life out here. But normally you can gauge ever so slightly the sort of overall health of a species by their tick load. If there's far too many ticks, then it could suggest that they're in ill condition. But a lot of organisms out here have ticks. Even elephants, even reptiles. Ticks are everywhere. And although, well, they creep people out, not a lot of people like ticks, and I can see why. They're ectoparasites that pass infection and stick onto your body. It's not the most pleasant thing to think about. But generally speaking, their role in the ecosystem is to spread disease, to keep populations in control. And normally some ticks secrete a very small amount of saliva containing anesthetic properties onto their animal before they latch on. So most species out here won't actually even feel them bite into them, because there's been a small amount of saliva put on the skin first, and it slightly numbs the area, and they won't even feel that they've got a tick on them. And if the tick is located in a particularly sheltered spot, it can go completely unnoticed. Now with leopards, they don't really allow oxpeckers on them. They can scratch, they can pull them off by scratching, but obviously that's not a good idea. And not all parts of the body are going to be easy to get ticks off. So after feeding, a lot of ticks, once they're full on blood, they will actually just drop off and prepare for the next stage of their own life cycle. So they act as a disease vector, really, and they control wildlife populations. I'm not talking about humans. By spreading disease, they do weed out the weaker animals and sort of prevent them from passing on their potentially flawed trait. The weaker animals are the ones that are not thriving out here. So genetically, they can get weeded out. And if you don't have disease present in a natural ecosystem, areas can actually become overrun with animals that would have otherwise become ill and died. It's a natural control of the systems. They're also a great food source for reptiles, amphibians, birds. They love eating ticks. Oxpeckers the most. And as I mentioned, they can be an indicator, just an indicator of species health, but also ecosystem health and overall stability. Okay, I'm going to sit just a little bit longer with Sibui, and I'll have to make space for other vehicles, but we are going to send you across to Matt and his cheetah.
Welcome back to Phinda, everybody. We've shuffled around these cheetahs somewhat. You can just see eyes and ears poking out of that long grass where they are. One stood up briefly to make sure the coast was clear and then hunkered back down, and I can imagine they're all lying fairly close to one another, if not on top of one another, where they are, to try and keep relatively warm. I've still got my big jacket on because it is still quite chilly here this morning. But a welcome back there. You can see the black behind that one's ears. They all seem to be, when they shuffle and change around, one seems to wake everyone else up with the movements. But then those heads disappear again and they head straight back to sleep. Driving back, we saw quite a few herds of impalas in the vicinity as well, which is obviously good for these cheetah. There's a bit of a stretch from the one, looks like, and maybe also again just a reshuffle, stretching those back legs and finding a more comfy spot to lie down. Amazing how well camouflaged they are. They're literally lying right next to the road, but super well camouflaged in that long grass. From a distance, you probably wouldn't be able to spot them, I don't think, if you didn't know they were here. Just see a limb moving in the grass below. I wonder what part of the body that is. You can see the long fluffy hair, the big old yawn from one of them, and that's encouraging signs. A bit of a paw, maybe doing a little bit of grooming. All signs that they might start to look to get active. And like I said, with that little reshuffle, then they all seem to start waking up. One that moved away is now coming back. When they roll over, you can see the very white bits underneath their chins and on their bellies, which sometimes at a distance is the only thing that you'll see in grass that is sometimes brown and not as lush as this. They blend in really, really well. And now looking in front of us is a herd of impala slowly but surely making their way into this direction, which is also good news for these cheetah. I don't think they've noticed them just yet because they are still fairly relaxed. But in the distance now you can see, might be able to just see one or two of them. A couple of young lambs, impala lambs in the mix as well. They've just now disappeared behind the thick area. There's one that's starting to creep out there further to the right. Quite a large herd of impala. And these cheetah are all starting to stretch now and show signs that they're going to get up and start moving, which is good news for us. So I'm going to stick around here, but we're going to head across to Andrew, who's got some lions who are doing much the same as these cheetah were.
Thank you very much. You know, talking about the cheetah about to get to move here. We got a Bride of Line. You know, all along this morning we talk about trekking the Bride of Line, where the guys were working harder this morning on the far east, looking for this specific bride, which is a Talamati bride. It looks like it's amazing how they find them here in the middle of this bush. And nevertheless, we got them right now. They're just taking it easy. Actually, they have done a lot of movement to get into this position where we are now, not far from Gari Dam, if they have to move west from here. And they're all just gonna probably spend time here, I believe so, unless if they get disturbed, which is a chance they may get disturbed. Where a lot of antelopes or animals, they have a lot of chances also to do their movement. where the weather is great, but the weather is great for the cats as well. See how they're even closing their eyes. Not even carry here. So it's actually 3 vehicles in this lock. That female just putting her back leg on top of her sister. Probably brother, I think. And that one, she's up a little bit. Ahead. Beyond. So I'm gonna, looks like some station in front of me. There's not a lot of exits here. I might actually have to drive back so that we let them get out. It's all about. Probably going to take that position again. And once they're out of there. So, looks like we got a visual of them even from here, but not great though. They lie right here where it's open, but you know, around it's a lot of and it looks like they are just gonna be taking it easy in this area. I haven't actually seen a lot of buffaloes in this area, herds. It's been a while since I've seen them. I'm gonna drive forward, see if I get to see the rest of this bride. Cool. Yeah, we got them whole. You can see all of them together, I think. Usually is anything about 14, I think, the guy says, is the capacity of the bride. Where there's a male over there. I was trying to wondering if it's a dark man, a walker. Paul, you're very right. I agree with you. You know, that actually hasn't been around here for quite some time, but it's great to see them. I know last night when we spent time with these old impalas in that drizzling of the rain, and then I mentioned that every time there's a wind pushing any of the directions, and we had a chance that the wind was pushing from the south to the north. Where they were in the north, then they have to come this way because then during that hunt they have to face the wind. So this is how they find themselves in this position. So yeah, you're right, Paul. It's actually very good to have them back here again. a pride like this, they would need decent antelope. Even though they don't have a lot of a choice, they have to hunt impalas, where one impala for them is nothing. So they need a lot of impalas maybe, which that doesn't actually work well for them. You know, killing on impalas, it's a lot of work. And that looks like she also have a full belly. Could be that maybe she's pregnant or carrying, not sure. But her belly looks like much bigger than the rest. But she's one of the fully grown female in this pride. So if they would kill zebra or wildebeest, kudus, waterbuck, of course, now they would have at least sustainable food for the entire pride. And it's always so important that males stick around with them, because anything they kill, they will share with them, they will be able to feed. But if it's a small antelope like impala, you're more likely to take all of it for himself, not to let them feed on it because it's small. That's what happened. So I'm gonna stay put here for this pride, just to see what is gonna happen. All right. So the wind is still blowing where they are right now. See, the grass is even flat to the northwards, so the wind is still blowing northwards. So, and of course, since I think they've been on a lot of move early this morning, the guys tracked their tracks. They could tell how fresh they are on top of the elephants' tracks. I think it must be the herd of elephants that we just saw just now. So that, I think, there was actually still moving early this morning. And it's still kind of a warmer. It would actually finally later on, if the wind doesn't really stop, they will finally get around for a warm. So I'm gonna stay put here to see what is gonna happen with our pride.
We had to reposition a little bit just to try and get a better view. There's lots of vehicles here, and thanks guys. This will be our last little segment with Sibui. It's getting busy. There's an etiquette here that you have to make, so have to make space for others. So we'll just do a short little segment here, and then we shall bumble off. We'll head back north, and I will check the hyena den once again. I checked it this morning, no luck. But because it's cold, it's overcast, it's chilly, there's a chance it could be active again. We know where Sutu is. It's amazing the relationship between hyenas and leopards, really, and it's amazing how different leopards react differently. I mean, I've watched Tingana not even bat an eyelid when a hyena walks by. If he knows his kill is stashed up the tree, he doesn't even bat an eyelid. He maybe snarls, but he knows he's got the upper hand and the hyena's not going to attack him. You get individuals like Kalamba, who generally runs. She's aware it's not worth risking getting hurt, it's not worth getting any injuries, and she runs. I've seen Tandy do both, actually, and it was just so interesting earlier watching Sibui launch out of the air and genuinely try to attack Sutu. It wasn't a snarl, it wasn't a stay away, it was a full-blown attack. But it's been so nice to spend time with this leopard one that we don't normally see. It's an absolute pleasure. She's so beautiful. But we are going to bumble north now and hopefully get lucky with my other spots.
Welcome back, everybody. These cheetah, yeah, like I was saying earlier, have slowly started mustering up the strength to move and become a little bit more active. You can see the one now sitting up. The two siblings on the right-hand side were playing with one another, just saw paws and claws and all the rest just now. But now it's just eyes and ears looking at us. That herd of impala has crept a little bit further to the right, but the five of them seem to be showing more signs of movement this morning, which is quite encouraging. On the left-hand side, you see that one grooming itself quite a bit, grooming the tools of the trade. Those claws, other one now sitting back down, but just a lot of head movement otherwise of them licking themselves and grooming themselves. There are patches of water where these impala, or there's impala sort of walking towards, that would have filled up more wallows now maybe than actual bodies of water. But there might be a little bit of water in there for them to drink. And if they do venture there, it's almost halfway between where they are and where these cheetah are. We might see a little bit of movement from them. So off to our right-hand side are where the impala are. Not too far from the cheetah. Slowly but surely edging their way forward, but I'm quite certain that they'll stick to the more vegetated areas where it's a little bit more sheltered from the wind otherwise. In the skies above, Annette, you commenting on how cute these little ones are. All five of these cheetah cubs are super cute, as well as, I'm not sure if you've managed to see in picture some of the impala lambs that might be with that herd. Also super cute. A couple of them at the back there, but already significantly bigger than what they were when they were born a couple of months ago, if a couple of weeks ago. But in the skies above them now, you can see flying are two yellow-billed kites, which were a little bit closer to us earlier. Not a bad spot for those kites to be hanging around, especially with these 5 cheetah around. If they are successful and that kite flies overhead, it will be the first to suss out that kill and make its way down. And if there are vultures in the area, that's what the vultures will go on, is if that yellow-billed kite then flies down to the ground, vultures will come and investigate, and that's often how they are alerted to a kill. But now another one of the cheetahs is sitting up, having a good thorough scan around. I'm hoping that it turns its head the opposite direction into that of the impala. The only thing that these cheetah don't have here between them and the impala is cover, but in the same direction that little cheetah is facing was another herd of impala on the road that we came in on, so they could very well have moved closer towards us from behind us. Just looking back now, I don't see them, but the first thing that you notice on these cheetah is that long fluffy hair on the back of their necks. which is an indication of the age. Just under a year old, about 9, 10 months old, these 5. Still super young, but an incredible story behind them of survival. I'm gonna sit patiently with these cheetah for now, but we're gonna head across to Carl, who's got something interesting to show us.
Sorry, Swallow. So we're staying here put with our pride of line, where they don't actually do much right now. They're still lying, some of them licking himself, and that one she's putting it, still looking, but she's probably gonna go down again. If they're gonna move from here, wouldn't surprise me with this weather. But they will mainly focus so much on moves during the night, because this is where they gain access to their hunt experience, get enough to the prey species closer. And looks like the whole night they didn't actually succeed though. Look at the dark man. He's showing off. This is probably what is going to happen. So roll over instead of stand and take another position, switch. And he's up. He can see his eyes as well. So 18 hours of sleep, sometimes the whole day before they're active again. So that depends on what temperatures. But with this temperature, I don't think they need that much. And the lions scavenge, so they can steal from other lions, their weakest pride, and they can steal from leopard, they can steal from cheetah, from wild dogs, and they can climb trees. Only very difficult for them when they have to come down. And once we're in an area now where we've got quite a few hyenas in this area, and a lot of these tracks of hyena, they were on the western boundary there, where I believe this is where we saw the 2 of them last night attempting on impala, but they probably just gave up. And there was a lot of their tracks there. Well, I haven't seen a lot of their tracks since I was trekking on this far east of this hyena, but you know, they're a good tracker. Immediately once they know there's a pride here of lions, they would stay behind them. So, because they scavenge also. When a hyena scavenge, which means they have to also stick behind the cats. See them a lot of time, they take their prey from leopard right away. They tend to respect the lions, especially in pride. Then they would need a whole, well, no chance actually is still from this pride, especially as so many of them. But they would have to wait until it's possible when the pride have to move away from that killing scene, and then the hyenas will investigate for remain of the bones. So Talamati, it means available water, plenty of water, but there is actually area in the Kruger National Park. Roka, you're right, they're so relaxed, especially now there is no activity about them and they're just gonna lie flat. There seems to be, they don't actually look dangerous, but they are dangerous. Just because they're just flat and they're actually not looking at us at all. We actually accompany, the cards accompany for these animals every day, wherever they are, even though they cross to the north, Manyeleti, and they still have viewers out there. They still have vehicles close to them. When they come back here again, they still have vehicles, getting close to them. So finally, whether it's all about growing up since when they were young, knowing, understanding car that it's never a threat. So what I see here, Talamati is getting bigger and bigger. So I was about to explain the name of a Talamati. Since it's available of water, it means that in a Kruger Park there is an area. I think that's where they get their name from, Talamati. And they had been in an area, came in from the eastern boundary corner of Manyeleti. They slowly make their way this way. And they've been dominated by a few males. Birmingham was a part of them. And the Matimba was a part of them. Matimba went, Birmingham came in. Birmingham have moved. Now we have Avoca males that they're still today, as we can see one of them there. And they actually done well though. Since this Avoca came in, all of these young sub-adult male and the female that you see here, they're their offspring. It's always so important. For a coalition of males come into an area, find any females, breed with them. Then, finally, the pride is sustained. We then, as we can see now, a whole lot of them. If they breed again, it's going to be plenty of them. Then when it comes so many in pride, 30 pride and pride, and that so much of work they need to do, hunting, they need to focus on that so much, because then they would need a lot of meat to feed the whole members over here. He's just about to look at us, this male. So I'm gonna be staying put here, sending you over to Lauren with her bird.
We've just driven along Gowrie Main, which is a southern boundary between the properties that we can traverse in the south, and there's white-backed vultures everywhere. Some of them have flown off since our approach, and excuse the power line, but something is dead here, 100%. I haven't heard anyone mention it, so I don't know if it's just recently happened, but there's whitebacks on Djuma to the north and on Little Gowrie to the south. So I don't know if the kill's possibly in the south and we won't have access to it, but something's going on. Whiteback vultures are just incredible. And they normally you normally find them around a larger kill. So it wouldn't necessarily be a leopard kill or an impala lamb that you would find them. Normally it's when there's lions around and the lions have killed something substantial, you'll find the whitebacks arrive. They're normally the first to arrive. They're the most numerous and extremely frantic at a kill site. They'll hiss and mob each other once they get down on the ground. But until then, they all sit on the tree quite relaxed. They'll go right inside a carcass as well and try and get as much as they can. But I need to figure out what the mystery is here. Whitebacks actually, not lions and not leopards, but they've actually been known to chase cheetahs right off a kill. They're large, they're aggressive, they're very opportunistic, and they will try really hard to get as much as they can, even when there's a predator on the kill, especially cheetahs. There's different species of vultures. We normally find the white-backed and the hooded at carcasses. Occasionally we'll see a lappet-faced, the largest ones, and very, very rarely we'll see a white-headed. But they have different shaped beaks, they're all different sizes, and this means that generally they'll feed on different parts of a carcass. So some will feed on the eyes and the soft tissue, some will go for the very, very innards, some will go for the muscle tissue, some will even go for the hide. Vultures are all specialised in unique ways, and it's just like the predator hierarchy. They have their own hierarchy, and they're specialised to avoid competition with one another. They do compete, but having unique specialisations for different parts of a carcass, they're essentially reducing competition between species. Fiona very far, and that's why it's hard to determine exactly where the kill is. You can sometimes look in the direction that they're looking, but I can't tell right now whether there's something on Djuma or something on Little Gowrie. Something's telling me it's Little Gowrie, but they're highly visual. They can see great distances, and therefore they can sit very, very far away from the kill. And they're like sheep. As soon as one reacts, they all react. Meaning as soon as one flies up to swoop down, they all will. They're really incredible animals. It also took me a little bit of time to appreciate the true nature of vultures. Again, they have an awful reputation and they're not the most aesthetically pleasing birds, but they're incredible in their own right. And white-backed, which is what we're looking at right now, this species, they actually forage using a sort of grid flight pattern, if you like. So they'll circle in a very organised manner. It might not look organised to us, but it's very organised. And it's almost like a flight formation pattern, if you like. And when one individual spots something and starts moving downwards, they all follow. That's their beacon to follow. There's a kill, there's a kill. Come on down to the ground. So they all follow one another constantly, and that's how they end up getting lucky. They'll also look out for other raptors and other sort of birds of prey. They'll also keep an eye on them. So for example, if they see tawny eagles or bateleur swooping down, they'll go and check exactly what it is they are looking at. But I don't know what's going on. I think I'm going to have to listen to the radio and find out. But this amount of vultures, you will definitely know that there's something going on. If it's just one or two vultures, not necessarily. But if there's lots of vultures like this, then yes, there's definitely a kill somewhere. Some vultures have actually been recorded, I don't know the species, but at diving speeds of 120 kilometers per hour. They literally just fall out of the sky. They just drop to get to the carcass as quick as possible. 120 kilometers per hour. So from one scavenger to another, I think we better bumble to make this hyena den. You ready, Simon? Yeah. We're not too far out, but I will have to put my foot down. I'm aware of the time and I really do want to check on the den. So hopefully it will be active, and we're going to send you back across to Mike and his cheetah.
Welcome back, everybody. We had quite a bit of movement from these cheetah a short while ago. The 5 of them were all up playing with one another, and now they've settled back down into their little nest. That patch of grass seems to be providing them with the ideal resting place this morning. Still, every so often, a couple of limbs that you see being flicked up, tails in the mix and heads coming up and down. They're playing with each other quite a bit at the moment, or at least the ones at the back are. Wouldn't be surprised if they get up to sort of reshuffle in amongst all that playing. And even that for them is super important. They, at this age with no mom, will obviously have established some sort of dominancy in amongst themselves, especially with the males in the mix. And one of them would take charge in getting up and moving, potentially looking for food. And even at the dinner table, they'll vie for the best spots at the dinner table. And you'll notice that now with that one that's just stood up, it's got a collar around its neck. 2 of these 5 young cheetah have collars on them, and that's just for us to monitor their movements. They obviously are nowhere near the age where they would be young enough to fend for themselves. Normally their mom would still be with them until they're about 18 months to 2 years old. But because they are without their mom, it's just for us to keep tabs on them and watch their movements and their progress. And they have already been successful hunting on numerous occasions, which is really encouraging signs. But those collars just do keep track of them where they go on the reserve, because some parts of this reserve are incredibly thick. But you can hear now the wind starting to pick up significantly as well. They're starting to become quite a bit more alert, but still time for play. You see the tail flicks and paws and claws up in the air still every so often. I think they're wrestling and playing with one another in that long grass, but incredibly well camouflaged where they are. that herd of impala has now moved off. It's just the wildebeest, lonely wildebeest off to the left-hand side. There you see the one's now gotten up to pin its sibling down and wrestle a little bit more. Tails, limbs, there we go, a little bit super playful. Carl, you're asking if there are any physical features that indicate their age. Absolutely. If you have a look on their necks and on their backs, just behind their heads, they've got that really long, fluffy fur. That's probably the telltale sign of their age. That, and normally if their mum was with them, just their size, their actual size, they are not quite as big as the adults just yet. That in the next couple of months, so they're only about 9-10 months old, and in the next year they'll be fully grown. But and just their size, their general size, they're a lot smaller than the adults, and obviously that fluffy fur. I'm not sure, Carl, if you've seen a really, really young cheetah, maybe here a couple of weeks ago we managed to film a mom with her cubs that were significantly smaller than them, maybe about 3 months old. They almost look like little honey badgers with that completely white fur on their backs and almost black fur underneath, half and half. They look like honey badgers. These obviously a little bit older, but now you can see that fur that I was talking about behind their necks that they'll eventually grow out of, and it will be those definite spots. This one you can see the direction that the wind's blowing in, maybe just shuffling around the side. You're asking if they're hunting on their own. Yes, they are hunting on their own, and successfully at that. They managed to catch a young nyala the other day, which is fantastic. And I think before that, this time of year, with things like the impala lambs that are about, makes hunting a little bit easier for cheetah that are as young as these 5. You can see just how vigilant they are, constantly scanning the areas around them. I mean, in the woodlands, now a lot of the general game, the impala would head back there because it's more sheltered from the wind. But you could very well find things like nyala in there as well. These 2 wildebeest, there was another herd of zebra at the back that we saw. This one here, there was a giraffe that walked past them earlier on and they went completely undetected. But have a look at this one. That's typical behavior of how they would stalk, slowly but surely creep a little bit closer. But this one coming to investigate what looks like a rock here next door to it. You can see they're all slowly mustering up some energy now. Having a good old sniff of that rock. Here come the others. A little bit of how incredible is that to see them all up and coming towards us now. And to see 5 of them together is also super special. I may be jealous of the other one coming to look at and investigate the rock, but now out in the open, how amazing is that? Also now out in the open, you'd be able to see their claws. You can see that fur that I was talking a little bit better now, Carl, if you're still watching. I want to spend some more time with this lot now that they're out in the open and a lot more playful. This provides for endless entertainment.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off. Just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The croc's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going. It's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it? Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me.
It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live from the Chobe River? It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
Quite a bit more playful and energetic now, these 5 youngsters who have gotten up, all busy wrestling with one another, playing with one another. You can see the one at the back out just scanning the far side of this open area to see if there's anything of interest. Just having a look behind me to see if there are any impala that have ventured a little bit closer, but no luck with them. They're all now looking in or at least those 2 are looking in that direction, that other herd of impala, where I can't see them at the moment. But in conditions like these, even more vigilant than otherwise. And you can see the 2 that are still on the ground, wrestling with one another, batting each other with their paws. Incredibly cute faces, these 5. And I think they're going to grow up to be really stunning cheetah. Got the most piercing amber eyes. And with a little bit of morning light on mornings that are not overcast like this morning, really do show those beautiful attributes of these cheetah off. You can see now on their faces, their whiskers considerably shorter than that of a leopard that you would have seen with Lauren this morning. Every last detail of these cheetah is just built for speed. Small whiskers, the ears that they'll prick back, those tapered tails that act like a rudder when they're running at the speeds that they do, and those claws that you would have managed to see now when they walked up towards that rock lying in the road that they use for extra traction when they're running. But yeah, this is the most movement that we've seen out of them all morning. A couple of them now moving off to the right hand side. Definitely now the time after 2 days of not having eaten anything, which they will now be looking to find something on the menu. In the distance there are some faint cries of a Jacobin cuckoo. Oh, have a look, watch them chase each other. As soon as they start chasing, you can get a taste of the speeds that they can actually reach if they do decide to do that. But this looked like more of a pounce on the other one that you saw now. There we go, more wrestling. Just see flashes of white as they wrestle on the ground. And everyone getting a case of FOMO now, wanting to join in on the fun. They might just get up and take off after one another. You saw now how that one at the back there tried to paw or ankle tap its sibling. That's exactly what they'll do to prey to try and trip them up. There we go. There's a little bit of action from them. 2 of them now peering around the corner, and the 5th that's just stood up and missed all the action. But I'm really hoping that they continue with this playful behavior and chase one another a little bit more. Nice that they're out in the open fast as well. And now they're all coming back to that little nest of theirs. I wonder what's there that... Amazing amazing how they just go straight back to that spot where they've been resting all day, but just obviously a really comfortable spot for them. But all up now, still chasing one another. Sheesh. Love those tails, the white tip of their tails. There you go, a little bit more. That's incredible. Chesty saying it's good to see them practicing. Absolutely. This is vital for them. These life lessons, tripping each other up and honing their skills for one day when they are either the females on their own and have to provide for youngsters of their own, or males in coalitions to try and trip prey up. Looks like they're in a bit of an amphitheater now, chasing each other. But it's amazing to see them so playful now. Earlier on, fast asleep, quite a bit of grooming. But there we go. Have a look at those ankle taps, jumping on each other's backs, and that's exactly how they would take something like an impala down, or even a nyala, is try and trip it up or just jump on its back to bring it down. Obviously, these little bursts of energy require them to recharge their battery somewhat. Oh, there we go, a little bit of a chase. To recharge their batteries, so they'll go down, lie down, catch their breath, and maybe up again to start chasing each other, but full of energy all of a sudden. And the cooler conditions, I think we have got to thank for that, because otherwise what would this time of year be quite a hot day in Zululand, temperatures of up to around 40 degrees and humidity that's almost unbearable. They would be hunkered down in a bit of a shady patch resting. But yeah, the cooler conditions this morning, everyone's up and a lot more playful and energetic. Still no impala. There's a wildebeest who's awfully relaxed watching these five play, and yeah, also, like we said earlier, not a bad thing for them to have around. If there is a predator around that wildebeest sees, it will obviously sound the alarm, and the cheetah will be able to get to a safer spot in good time. But yeah, they come back. I wonder if they won't come back to this rock and investigate that rock. Maybe a spot where something else is previously scent marked. Rainy conditions. A lot of cats that are territorial, lions, leopards, cheetah, all have to go back after rain, would have washed those scent mark posts or scent marks of theirs away, and then they have to go back and cement their territories and scent mark on their sort of typical posts that are within their territories to let everyone else know that it is in fact their territory. Amazing to see that the five of them, the four of them with their heads all up like that, just to see the five of them together is incredible. Still got some more energy, batting each other. That looks like a little bit more serious this time, biting each other, pouncing on one another. I'm really hoping that we get another chase. There we go. Have a look at that turn of speed. And just those tails that follow. Magic. And then they stop just to make sure nobody else is watching. And then, like they have been doing, straight back to that comfy spot of theirs. But maybe on the way back, these three might trip each other up or chase each other again. Now you can see towards their back legs, those hips of theirs that are almost indented, definitely looks like they could do with a meal. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do at some stage today in the cooler conditions attempt to hunt. That one at the back now smelling. We are going to head off to Carl. Oof.
Welcome back, everybody. We are just sitting here and staring at a hole. Thanks for joining us. It's been wonderful. We are busy waiting for Billy the bulldozer to come back out, and you shall be seeing Billy anytime soon. Hello. This is Billy, everybody. He has, or she, it has just excavated a beautiful little tunnel leading down into a chamber, and it is coming back to what it really wants, which is this lovely stockpile of dung that has been dropped by an antelope. And using that antennae, that pair of antennae, obviously guided this large beetle to the spot. It's a fairly large individual. It's about 4.5 centimeters long and about 4 centimeters wide. So it's quite a monstrous individual. You can see those big flattened first pair of legs, obviously used as invaluable tools for its behavior. Really remarkable insect, especially to see them excavating these chambers is just such a treat. You think about how busy this animal is, and like I mentioned before, where does this animal just get this unlimitless supply of energy? It just seems like its Duracells are charged to full capacity all the time. I need some of that. Craig giving us a great view of those first pair of legs. I mean, obviously very important and a very distinctive characteristic of this family, dung beetles or scarab beetles, Scarabaei. And also the antennae, also very, very distinctive. So within this very diverse group of beetles, this specific group obviously is categorized by those flattened first pair of legs, which are used for digging or used for maneuvering the dung in a certain direction. Obviously using them as almost like as anchor plates to push the animal. Yeah, what a great view. Laura, good morning. Unfortunately not. This is not eland dung. I'm sorry. Great for even just knowing just what eland dung might look like. This was left by let me see the tracks here. This was left by a sable this morning that has walked down the road and has left this beautiful prized little clump here for a lot of insects. And actually what got our attention first was the activity of all the flies, which are coming down and using their very specialized mouth structure to sap up moisture, but then also to feed on various parts of this dung left behind. There's also very small dung beetles inside the stockpile. You can see one or two pellets moving every now and then. There we go. Looks very airy. It looks like there's something inside the pellet, or like the pellet's going to hatch, but it's actually tiny dung beetles underneath. Oh, don't know if you guys heard that. That dung beetle erected his wings and just took off. But yeah, there comes another one. Oh man, we could have had a fight. It's another big individual. Maybe that's why the first chap, Billy the bulldozer, took off. He was scared of Frankie. I don't know. Whoa. Also being honed in by the sweet, sweet smell of life. And obviously this is where it all is. This is where life all began, guys, back in the day. Hot, steaming pile of poop. Hello, Nina. Great question, and they won't be very deep. We're looking at about maybe 10 centimeters. That's quite an achievement in itself. But yeah, around about 10 centimeters into the earth. Great question. Thank you, Nina. So you can see how those front pair of legs now are coming into vital play to push and thrust the animal back, obviously anchoring it and pushing it back. And those hind legs also designed in a manner that the leg splits into tiny little like grapnel hooks. once that animal is held onto that piece of dung, there's a very slim chance that it would lose its grip. This is so rad. Gotta find the best pieces, eh? So the dung obviously vital for nourishment for adults and larvae. And if you think about what this animal is doing now, is also then enriching and feeding the soil. Oh, you're not going to use billies. Oh, it's going to dig its own. You can see that frontal shield also working like a spade. Wow. Looks like it's a bit excited. I don't know if I want to dig or collect dung. Okay, let me dig again. Using the first 2 pairs of legs, displacing soil, and then using the hind legs to push that displaced soil back. I'm going to go a little bit deeper where it's got a little bit of moisture, obviously, where the sediment then holds together. You can see on the right-hand side how the sediment just falls in that depression. Very powerful little animals. 850 times its own weight it can move. So imagine picking up that amount of weight. It's tremendous.
Look what I have found, everyone. The first that I've managed to pick up this season. Over here, Simon, we have the marula fruit. Now, this is rock hard. Oh, no, I just dropped that one. There's no way I could eat this right now. It's not ripe, but they've fallen from the ground. And you can see here, this is skin. The skin is very thick and you can see teeth marks. Someone has been eating away at the fruit. I don't know if it's a squirrel or some ground animal is gnawing on the delicious fruit. And this right here is the nut. This is a nut that sits inside. If you just want to zoom out a little bit, Simon. You'll see that the nut sits inside the skin with a layer of fruit around it. Now, this one's been completely opened up. Now, the fruit itself contains a lot of vitamin C. It's very, very nutritious. And it's said to contain 4 times more vitamin C than an orange. Now, the nut, they call it, the core, is really rich in protein. So although it's hard, a lot of animals will crack this open to get the really sort of delicious protein insides and also oil. There's oil in there. And the oil is very, very rich in omega-9 and omega-6, which deeply hydrates and nourishes. It's called marula oil. It basically helps, well, transepidermal water loss, so it hydrates and it can increase. You can use it on your skin. Isn't that wonderful? I've got plenty more to say about this fruit, so I'm going to sit here a little bit longer.
Sorry, Pinda. So now we're at the dam here. We have to left the Pride of Line because there's quite a few vehicles interested there. And we come to the dam, Gary Dam, where there's a male hippo in this dam. I think this is how he's going to be spending time here. Where weather would allow him, if he wants, he can get out the water, eat a little bit, come back to the water again until darkness takes place. This is where he would move out for feeding, which you eat grasses when they're outside of the water the whole night. Doesn't look like he has any females. I think he must be the one that he sometimes also occupied Treehouse Dam, I believe. Hippo has to be in the water during a daily basis for the sake of the sensitive skin they have. Doesn't have to be burned out from the sun for too long. Trying some bird, but it's calling far in. It's beautiful to see hippo here again. Where you never know, maybe the croc will end up coming in as well. Because once there's a plenty of water, then it means it's going to be a plenty of fishes. And the crocodile will be also attracted. Katie, 7 years old, so you want to know what do hippo eat? So hippo, they eat grasses. So they do eat grasses, but they prefer a short grass because they don't chew cud, but also there is a special grass they feed on. You find them in the river, they would eat reeds as well. But short grasses that they would also prefer is this. They have started feeding on this mound, so every night they get out. They visit those areas where they have been a few days because they already make shorters, so regrowth that take places, and that's what they will go feed again. And that's why when they move out of the water, they have a special pathway where they use those paths to reach their grazing land. But it has to be at night when they do that. That's why they actually become so dangerous to whoever is on their pathway. They don't like it. And they can still see at night as well when they're out there. But since he's alone, so every time you get out, he's just gonna move but alone. Hardly to join up with the other animals, hippos. So I'm gonna stay put here, sending you over to Lauren with her fruit marula.
Now, going back to the marula fruit, there's not actually much fruit. If you see, the nut fits in here quite tightly. There's not actually much fruit on it. The size of the nut is much larger than the amount of the fruit that goes around it. And I always liken it to, I think it's a mix between a lychee and a rambutan. If you've never heard of a rambutan, it's native to Southeast Asia and it's one of my favorite fruits in the whole world. And it's similar, it's related to a lychee. It's very, very similar. You can Google it and it's got a very interesting appearance. And that's what I think a marula fruit tastes like. It's absolutely delicious. And archaeological evidence, believe it or not, shows that the marula fruit itself and the nut-like center were an important food in southern Africa in ancient times, and it stems back to about 10,000 years. This fruit has got a history, and it's really, really important to all the animals out here as well. Now, not only is the marula tree itself, we've got one over there, I think that's the marula straight ahead, deciduous, which means it sheds its leaf in winter. It's also dioecious, and what that means is it has a specific sex. One tree will be male and one tree will be female, and the female tree is the only one that drops its fruit like this. So the fruit only comes from the female tree. And actually in Swallow, maybe Kyle can tell you a little bit about this, there's an area with only female marulas. So how on earth is it getting pollinated? That is a good question. There has to be one male somewhere that's doing the job if each year the female keeps dropping its fruit. So I'm glad to find, I'm going to keep these and take them back, let them go ripe, and I'll show you them what they look like when they go ripe, because humans need to get in there first before the elephants. Elephants love marula fruits, as do many animals. So that's the rain back on, I'm afraid. We're going to head back to camp because it is, of course, the end of the drive. But thank you everyone for jumping on board. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll be out this afternoon. Please do join us. Have a great day.